Ciao tutti, hello everyone, and buon solstizio, happy solstice. This is the winter solstice that we're working with, which is tied to the element of water and the tarot card of the tarot suit of the cups. And a couple renditions for you to see. Feel free to pause the video if you need to at some point. So this is the Ace of Cups, and it actually, in old Visconti decks, it actually shows up as a fountain. So it's this idea of water. You can even look at it as like the fountain of youth. But this is the beginning of winter. So most people, and it's really interesting to me, most people are going to be focusing on, hey, it's the end of the darkest day of the year. Things are going to get lighter from now on. I'm going to encourage a different approach. Um, because in June, my friend V's birthday is June, and she's typically on or around the summer solstice, and everybody's celebrating summer. So this is where it can get really unbalanced because if we're celebrating light with summer and light with winter, where's the darkness? And some of you be like, I don't want any of that. Keep that away from me. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about that with Capricorn and the tarot card known as the devil. So there's a lot going on um, alchemically and symbolically this time of year. So we have water, the element of water. The principle of water is something else, but the element of water. And keep in mind when we're talking about these things, from an alchemical perspective, from like the old Greek model of the elements, water was viewed as cold and wet. So this is like a cold, damp, fluid type of season. It used to be a rainy season in some areas. And what we're looking at with this is a time of introspection. So we had the fall. We had the fall as associated with death and the element of air and this cutting principle because the sword needs air to move through. But now we're in winter. We're in water, and you can see there's like some watery background behind me. And what exactly does that mean? Well, this is an internal time. This would be Campbell's hero's journey, the initiation phase where they enter the underworld. So this is an internal time if we look at like a natural cycle. This is really important because the seeds are buried at this point. If you ever have had a garden or anything, you cut fall harvest, the seeds fall. Now, everything is apparently dormant, but it's from a outside view, from a physical view. But things are happening inside, and there's warmth underneath that is actually working to help germinate and create the conditions for new growth. So, this is a time that I'm going to encourage you, or at least put a different spin on things rather than the typical smile, put on a happy face, everything's getting lighter. Um, I know it's a tough time of year for a lot of people, a lot of emotions, a lot of if you've managed to cut back or been cutting back, there can be some grief and sadness with cutting back on what no longer fits or what no longer seems to serve you. And I caution not serve in terms of use, but as serving your growth, serving the seeds that are inside of you that you want to express. And so this is a time to really pull in internally, kind of like Psyche in the myth of Cupid and Psyche when she gets locked up by Venus and she has to sort seeds overnight. And the seeds that we sort, these ideas, these passions, these things that we've maybe set aside of ourselves or cut ourselves off, aspects of ourselves that we've cut ourselves off from. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily the time to expect a lot of growth. Maybe it is for you. Maybe you're in spring. Maybe you're at the end of winter. And that's great. But this is also a time to really sort your seeds, before they get planted, before you tend to them in the spring, what do you want to grow in the new year? And you can only, those are questions that you can only answer for yourself. Maybe we have friends that we can talk about things with. I know from writing, and I mentioned this in the blog post from today, in writing, one of the keys with writing is you say nothing. You don't say anything about, especially details about anything that you're about to write, because that takes the energy out of it. Once you've actually written it, you can talk away, you can blab about it, whatever. But the first thing is you push that energy into the page. And that's really what this time of year can be. It's an internal time of reflection. If you think about water, when it settles, it reflects. And then what do you need to do to get the water to settle? Absolutely nothing. You leave it alone. So this is a time of year where you can hopefully think about tucking in, less doing, less doing externally, and more checking in with yourself internally. What's really important to you? Not just what do people expect from you. There can be tons of expectations around the holidays, either placed on us externally or from ourselves. But this is a time, usually when things slow down just for a bit, where we can look and see what's important to us. And it's tempting to be like, well, I'm going to go on new growth. Don't even worry about that right now. Just take inventory. What seeds do you have? What are you looking to grow? What are you looking to explore? This is really important. This idea of exploring and curiosity. This is that um, childlike wonder, childlike curiosity. So this is another great time to reconnect with that childlike aspect of yourself. And yes, as I'm talking, I'm looking for another card. So yeah, the Fool, right? It can seem like the most foolish thing in the world to do nothing. But at the same time, if we reconnect with our curiosity at this time by kind of tucking in, then there's a possibility for new growth. And not forced growth, but growth that emerges naturally, just like a rose on a tree, right? It's a yellow rose tree. Um, but yeah, so the other thing is that with painting, this is something I've learned with painting. So we've got that internal tuck in with the writing, but then with painting, they talk about, well, if you really want your lights to pop, if you really want your bright colors to pop, you need to work the dark too. So this is the time, not necessarily to set aside the dark, but really settle into the darkness, see what's there. How do we do this? And this is the balance point between the elements. This is the elemental water. And the card itself that represents the element actually has a hint because it's a cup. And we cup and we receive, ideally. This is hard work. Even if you have an idea of how to work with it, it's tough. It doesn't make it necessarily, it's easier in that you've seen it, but it's harder in that the work is still really, really, really difficult at times. But the trick is, or one of the ways that's worked for me, and you can find your own way, is really cupping, holding the emotions, holding everything in your heart, and really checking in your heart and seeing what's there. The tricky thing with water is typically used to symbolize emotions and things. You can't cut water with your intellect. Maybe you've seen some of the things I post on the sword of the intellect and how great it is for slicing and dicing and analyzing everything. Feelings aren't like that. Feelings are like water. No matter how much you sharpen your sword, you've probably heard me say this if you know me, you can't cut through water. It's like water doesn't exist to the intellect. So this is more sitting with it. If you're trying to figure things out logically, and it's not working, this might be it. It might be a feeling. It's an intuitive sense. And now we're talking about an intelligence of the heart, which is tied with fire and Leo. And we're kind of on the opposite or complementary ends of the spectrum. So you're using the fire of your heart, your passion, what you care, what you truly, truly love and care about. to balance out and help you sort through the seeds and sort through your emotions. And that's hard work because nobody can do that for you. Nobody can tell you what's really important. People have all kinds of ideas and they're happy to tell you, but a lot of times it's just confirming their own biases. So find people that are just willing to listen and be receptive to you, and people that are actually receptive to themselves, even if it doesn't have to make sense. This is something I talked about in self-defense with people a lot. If you get an odd vibe, or if you get kind of an uneasy feeling, or if you don't want to do it, you don't need to give an explanation. You don't need to give a logical explanation, even to yourself. All you have to do is say, no, this doesn't feel right. And that's a way of honoring your emotions and honoring that watery aspect of yourself. So things can get a little splishy around the holidays. And like I said, I would encourage, rather than focusing on the light and focusing on doing all these amazing things and getting a ton of stuff done, if this feels right, really settle in. Take the time to settle in with yourself, find your ground base, find your center point, and let your emotions settle. Like just settle out. For me, nature, walks, yoga nidra, conversations, but limited conversations with people that I trust, and those are very, very few and far between. It's like a small handful of people, and maybe one or two that I can actually really open up to. And if you feel like there's not that many people, that's okay too. One, it takes relationships take a fair amount of energy, and two, these are things that, once again, if you're working with things that are close to your heart, um, they're not for everybody. Not everyone, everybody is fighting their own battle, so they say. But this is a time to set down the sword and tune in and reflect. So, yes, the days are getting longer. Yes, it's not as dark. But keep in mind, we're at the beginning of winter. This is the very, very beginning. So be gentle with yourself. Take time, introspect. What do you want to grow for the next cycle? And if you've started growing, um, once again, if you feel more wintry, bring in that it's okay to have the darkness. It's okay to tuck in. It's okay to be however you show up. And this can also, for me, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago, right before this, great sadness, great grief, much, much clearer now. But it was, I went beyond intellect and I started dipping in to the emotions here and holding them with a heart. And boy, was it a mess. It didn't take me that, luckily I have a friend or two to talk with, but it can get messy. And these things can take a little bit of time to kind of untangle what's really going on. Emotions can, like as I found out this year, something can seem resolved intellectually for like a year or 6 months, and then all of a sudden you feel it. So if your heart's popping open and you got all this water coming out of it, right, like a fountain, and emotions and holidays can tend to bring that out, or even just the idea of, oh my gosh, another year has gone by. Um, that can really bring it out. But at the same time, it's completely normal. It's, this is what our heart's for. It's so we feel. This is what makes us human. There's some people that are looking to the one friend, one person I know, the crazy transhumanist death cult, um, that are looking to eliminate death and darkness and sadness by trying to make humans live forever. But the problem is, at that point, if you've watched Star Wars, if you've watched um, if you watch Star Wars, not so much Lord of the Rings, that's more of the power. We'll get into that at some point. Star Wars, and what's the other one that I'm thinking of? Damn. Okay, so Star Wars, living forever, not so good. Harry Potter, there we go. Wanting to live forever, not so good. You become less than human. And You become less than human when you're trying to get rid of or sidestep your suffering. Because what's really happening here is these are points of connection. When we really need each other as humans, or when I've seen people really reach out, it's when they're going through tough times. And the only way that I can actively listen with empathy and without exhausting myself is to be like, oh, I understand because I've let myself experience some of these things, or I've had this experience, I've had something different. This reminds me of such and such. So you can empathize with someone. So this is what makes us human. And if there's a deep sadness, a longing, or whatever, just a depth of emotion that's coming out, sit with it, even if it's heavy and dark, like deep dark waters. Um, Deep dark chocolate might be something that you might look more forward to, but it's deep, it's dark, night sky, waters, but look at how bright the skies are. Like I said, we tend to avoid darkness, but one of the issues we have, look at the stars. One of the issues we have with seeing stars is there's too much light. There's too much, there's light pollution. So as we'll see tomorrow, now I'm getting ahead of myself. So tomorrow is Capricorn. So as we shall see tomorrow, that darkness will let us see things that are otherwise invisible. But for right now, it's more like emotions, seeds, heart space, and using your heart kind of as a cup for your emotions rather than trying to figure things out intellectually. So, happy solstice. This kind of gives you an idea of what I've been thinking, and we'll see where all this goes. And tomorrow, Capricorn, the devil, there's going to be another blog post and probably another video. So, have a great evening, and I'll talk to you all soon.